of you hear this weird sound?
I'm sorry, your voice is broken. So I started the recording now. Michelle.
Okay, cool. All right, today is Monday, April 6th, 2020. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. So let's go ahead and go into our 118 status updates. All right, so we were last in the middle of releasing our sidecars, and I believe all of them have been cut. I think attacher has been cut, resizer, and I don't know why my changes are. Let's try this again. All right. All right, they've all been done. So excellent job, everyone. I think the next steps from a 118 perspective is to just update our CI to add 118 jobs. So that is something that I can try to get to this week. Other than that, I think that's all I have for 118. I'll also try to find some time this week to start a 119 board and transfer all of these other backlog items to there. Any other 118 topics? All right, let's move along to miscellaneous topics. First up, we have FS group.
Yeah, I added that today because I was looking at this PR in more detail today because I was trying to figure out how FS group works in general. And one of your comments caught my attention, which says that this is supposed to be only fixed for inline volumes which have an FS type. And that seemed a bit odd. I just wanted to clarify what the expected functionality is here. We can also follow up in the PR if that's
okay. Sure, yeah. I guess Hamad, are you here? I think Hamad also has some comments on this one.
Yeah. I think he was asking the same question, so I thought it might be worthwhile to discuss how is it supposed to work?
So I think the problem is that today there isn't really a way for drivers, CSI drivers, to say if they support FS type or not. So what we do currently in Kubernetes is we kind of just guess and we say, oh, if it's a read write once volume, then we assume that FS group is supported, which is maybe not necessarily the best assumption, but it's currently the only assumption we can sort of operate on today. And so that kind of has problems now with ephemeral volumes, I think, because ephemeral volumes don't have access modes.
I'm not sure why. Well, okay, so you don't want to change ownership of read-only volumes. That makes sense.
Yes. And we also don't want to change ownership of read-write many volumes like NFS or Gluster.
Yeah, but inline volumes, aren't those by definition local? They are not shared between pods. Why is this read? Why? Well, okay, you might want something that is read-only. Okay, well, I guess for the read-only check, you might need additional information. I'm not sure whether that is available for for inline volumes, but why make it depend on FS type? That part doesn't follow for me. Because FS type is just for file systems, X4 versus
Sure.
XFS. It has nothing to do with the access mode.
I think I don't see that comment now from me. Did I make that on like a previous version?
Perhaps.
Oh, here. I see. Ha ha ha.
So,
no, I think I was saying this is what the current behavior of this PR is doing.
so is it? Because I've not seen an FS type check. The way it looks now is that it just skips this change volume ownership entirely for inline volumes. Because or I missed something in the patch. Because it does have this if check here now.
Here it says if FS type is empty, then it
okay.
skips.
There's an early return. Yeah. I don't see why we want that check, to be honest.
I mean, we can certainly look into removing the check for we can certainly look into removing it, but it's going to impact persistent volume types too. And that I'm not so confident that we can do that. So
so
at
this
least
check,
for now,
okay.
I'd rather like
I think I understand now where this check is coming from. It's not something that was in the code, in the patch. It was something that is already in the code base. So in that sense, it just makes ephemeral volumes behave like persistent volumes. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, whether it makes sense is a different question, but at least it's consistent.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think maybe we can take up that next question, whether or not we want to do this check, remove this check in general. I think we can do that as a follow-up potentially.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And is Hamant here? No. Okay. I will also follow up with Hamant. I'll follow up with Hamant because I think he had some other alternative suggestions on how to fix this issue. So we'll see. All right. Next up is ClientGo 118.
Yeah, I saw this one PR against, what was it, Attacher, somewhere where we are now updating to the latest ClientGo, and that has a breaking API change. All of the ClientGo methods now take a context as a first parameter, and I think there were also some changes about delete options. Actually, I might be confusing something here. This context thing, not sure whether that went into 118. I think it did. Yeah. So yeah, okay. I was right. ClientGo 118 is a definite API change, and if we start depending on it somewhere, everything else has to follow. So I was basically asking whether we want to make that an explicit goal for our next major release and just go ahead and do the same change everywhere now.
Yes, sounds good to me.
Yeah, and then we probably need to add it to. We probably need to add it to the tracking sheet to make sure that we actually do it in all repos to make sure that
I see that he submitted PRs in all the sidecars, but not those libraries that you
pointed. So I imagine like it will come up with compile errors or something like that. If,
he made a lot of changes in the because the client side, the generate files are all changed in the snapshots. So I was just asking him, just make sure that he generated.
Yeah, so I think the whatever library we use to generate the client files, that needs to be updated to 118 too.
Yeah.
So I think it will if there's like some dependency on libutils or lib external provisioner or anything like that, like it should show up as compile errors if we try to update it without updating the dependencies.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And then last item is node E2E
Yeah,
job.
this is an observation that I just had today and yesterday, that this pull Kubernetes node E2E containerd job seems to fail fairly consistently, even with multiple retests. I was just wondering whether that is something that others have seen, and I don't remember what the right Slack channel is to ask. Is it SIG release, SIG testing, or
I think it's SIG
KAS?
testing.
Okay.
If we look at job history, do you see it failing for other PRs too?
I've seen it
Yeah.
at least in 2 PRs.
It looks
But
like it's
most,
failing all across the board. Yeah, looks like it's failing everywhere. It also looks like the job is not required though. So I think for it to merge, it should be
okay.
okay.
So we can just ignore that one. I didn't see
Yeah.
that. Okay.
But I mean, yeah, it would be good. You can check in SIG testing
Yeah,
to
I
see,
guess
or if there's any.
if it's failing everywhere, I guess someone will notice. I hope.
Yeah, or if any issues have been open. Yeah, open 3 days ago. Someone's looking at it, or
Yeah,
at
okay.
least there's an issue open for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's looking at it. No one, I don't think anyone's looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first PR is ready. I'll just go ahead and add a link. Looks good to me. It's the testing of node stage error tests from Jan, and it's the first PR where we are using this JavaScript error injection in the mock driver. I had another idea that I brought up on Slack today with Jan, where I proposed something else. We are currently running the mock driver inside the cluster, just so that it can accept calls and it does nothing else than record them in its output. And in that PR and in my own one, we had problems just getting to the logs. That was one of the things that held up Jan's PR for a while, until I suggested to just retry, because we get an unknown error at some point for getting the log output from the CSI mock driver. And that all is fairly complicated, in particular when you also add error injection configurable by the test. So my proposal was that we move the mock driver into the test binary itself and just make it so that from inside the cluster, it looks like there is a local Unix domain socket, but that then calls into the test binary. And then in test binary, we have a lot more control over how we react to gRPC calls, how we handle them. It's just an idea
I guess
at
I
this
wasn't
point.
okay. I wasn't sure like technically how it would work, because the driver needs to be registered with kubelet and kubelet talks to the driver directly.
Yeah, you basically need to set up remote port forwarding. You can do that with SSH. So there is a local Unix domain socket in listening mode, and you put that into a container, just like you do now with a CSI mock driver. But then incoming connections, the entire DHCP connection then gets handled by the end-to-end test, which runs outside of a cluster.
Does that mean the container running on the node needs to tunnel back to the
Yes.
E2E binary?
The other way around, probably. So you basically need to set that up beforehand and have something running, some Go routines inside the test binary, which knows about the ports that come up with the driver, or the fake driver, and then it connects to that one. I think it can be made to work. It's just some basic infrastructure that needs to be set up first, and then that should work.
Okay. I'm not quite sure about the connectivity guarantees that we have between the test binary runner and nodes?
So the test runner basically needs to know about the instances that it is going to deploy, but we are currently deploying the CSI mock driver from the E2E test binary anyway. So we just deploy
But
something
it's
else.
through YAMLs, right? We deploy
Yes,
the mock
that's
driver through YAMLs, and
but
that goes to the master, but not necessarily to the node. So I'm not sure if the E2E runner host is going to have connectivity to the nodes.
it should, well, so you're saying that not all nodes or not all clusters may support incoming or may support this kind of connectivity.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of like private cluster configuration where the only thing exposed is the API server, but like
yeah,
even just SSHing to the nodes is not
yeah.
something exposed.
So but these clusters do support services, right? So well, okay, we don't actually know necessarily know the external IP address of that service then.
Yeah, the service may not have an external IP
Yeah,
potentially.
yeah. So that's, yeah, I guess that's where the bootstrapping becomes a bit problematic. Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, it's an interesting idea.
It's the kind of ideas that you get when you're woken up at 4 a.m. in the morning by your kid. Okay, well, never mind. I might toy around with that idea if time permits, because I think the current mock testing is really just awkward already, and some things that would be desirable even with JavaScript error injection are just not possible, like reacting to specific calls based on parameters. That still doesn't work even with the JavaScript extensions.
Huh. Is it possible, like in the mock driver, to basically expose every single CSI call as some hook, and then we can have the JavaScript sort of
Yeah,
override those hooks?
yeah, but it's currently it only has entry and exit hooks, and these hooks just basically know what the function call is. They don't know any parameters, because there would have
Can we not pass in like the JSON or the protobuf of the calls?
then you would need a gRPC parser in JavaScript. It's all doable, I think. It's just even more work, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that is the right direction, because then writing tests involves writing Go code, writing JavaScript code, some really tricky infrastructure, and this other idea with just handling the connection at the low level once and then writing everything in Go in the E2E test binary, that still looks a bit more appealing to me, to be honest.
All right. Any other topics anyone wants to discuss? All right, so I think for our next steps, we were basically wrapping up 118, and now we can start on our 119 stuff. Let me quickly see if we have any upcoming deadlines coming up. They have not created a 119 thing yet, so I don't think. The only thing I could potentially think of is possibly feature freeze end of this month or early May. I think that's probably our next deadline to look towards. So start thinking about the things you want to do in 119, and I'll go ahead and start. I'll create a project board for it so we can start populating the stuff we want to do. All right. If there's no other topics, then we'll end the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.